So we're going to start off with the renal system now, and in this video I'm going to be covering the basic functional anatomy and physiology of the renal system. So these are your kidneys in your abdomen. These are your kidneys which are situated in the posterior abdominal wall. Now you can notice in the diagram that the right kidney is situated a bit lower than the left kidney. That is because on the right side there is your liver, which pushes the right kidney a little bit down, whereas on the left side there's nothing, so it seems up, right? So the right kidney is a little bit lower and the left kidney is a bit higher than the right kidney. Now this is your aorta, right? This is your aorta. This is your descending abdominal aorta, which splits into your iliac arteries. And this is your inferior vena cava, that is the IVC, that splits that receives blood from your iliac veins. Now notice that the aorta is on the left side and the IVC is on the right side of the body. So by this fact you need to learn one thing, that the left artery, right, the left renal artery is smaller and the right renal artery is longer. Similarly, the right renal vein is smaller and the left renal vein is longer. Now, what is the importance of this fact? This is actually important because the left renal vein, due to the fact that it is longer, there are some pathologies that are favorable to the left side of the kidney, just because that the course of the left renal vein is longer. Alright, so you're going to be learning about that in the renal pathology. Yeah, I'm going to be teaching you the physiology here. Alright, so that's it. Now next up is, what are your functions of your renal system? Right, so there are a few functions, right? The most important one is your excretion. Yeah, the excretion of your waste products, like your metabolic waste products like urea, nitrogen, creatinine, and etc. Now the second function is your maintenance of your body fluid osmolarity, blood volume, etc. And by maintaining the blood volume, this also maintains your blood pressure, which is really important. Now the kidneys also produce some hormones. Yeah, some hormones like erythropoietin and renin, which I'm going to be covering in detail in the further lectures. Now your kidneys are also responsible for acid-base balance, maintaining the pH of the blood, pH neutrality of the blood. Alright, and the last function of the kidney is gluconeogenesis. Right, that is the process of making glucose when your body is under starvation. So your body makes glucose from other sources like amino acids and proteins in order to feed your body and brain, which preferably work on glucose only, so you need glucose. Now keep in mind that the major organ for this function is your liver only, but it also happens in your kidneys, so I'll just mention that. Now keep in mind that this renal artery comes at the level of L2. Your lumbar vertebra 2, at the level of L2, the renal arteries come from the lateral surfaces of aorta. Alright, now we're gonna go and look at the ultrastructure on longitudinal section of the kidney. Alright, so this is your kidney, and which is covered, this is a kidney, right? This is covered by this fascia. You can see, right? This is known as the Gerota's fascia. Yeah, Gerota's fascia. This is a capsule that runs on the entire surface of the kidney, and which actually also covers your suprarenal gland, that is your adrenal gland. Now, this surface is your cortex, renal cortex, and this one is your medulla. And this line here, this line, which I have drawn in dotted line, is your corticomedullary junction of the kidney. Now this is your callus. This is actually a renal pyramid, right? Renal pyramid is triangular structures. They are about 8 to 10 pyramids in each kidney, which drains into your minor calyx, then your major calyx. I'm going to write these. Minor calyx, which is this one. Yeah, this portion. Alright, now 2 and 3 minor calyxes join to make bigger major calyx. Alright, now this is a major calyx now, which ultimately drains in the renal pelvis. So this is your renal pelvis, which collects the urine from all the calyces. Then the urine goes through the ureter into the bladder. So this is your basic structure of the kidneys. Now one thing more, if I zoom in, I'm going to give you a rough idea where the nephrons are situated. So the nephrons are your basic functional unit of the kidneys. So there are about 1 million nephrons per each kidney, and they are situated somewhat here, right? So if I give you a rough idea, they are situated somewhat here, and the structure is somewhat like this. Alright, so they are here, which forms the urine. Actually, the nephrons are the ones who does all the work and form the urine, and the rest of this is all the collecting system. Now I'm gonna be telling you about the nephron, the detailed structure of nephron. So this is your nephron. Okay, so the blood comes from here and then forms a tuft of capillaries that is known as the glomerulus. I'm gonna be writing all this down, and then goes out from the afferent arteriole. So this is your afferent arteriole, which brings the blood to the kidneys, to the nephron rather, and this is your efferent arteriole. Now this is the tuft of capillaries that is formed, known as the glomerulus. Now these capillaries the blood in these capillaries get filtered in the space which is known as Bowman's capsule. This is a part of the nephron. Alright, and further, if you see, I'm going to be showing you, this is your Bowman's capsule. Alright, now this area is known as the proximal convoluted tubule, that is your PCT. Then this area, this entire area up to here, right, is your loop of Henle. Alright, so this part is known as the descending limb of loop of Henle, as it is descending down, and the rest of it is known as the ascending limb of loop of Henle. Now you can see one thing, that the ascending limb has two parts. Like this is the thin part, as you can see, and this is the thick part. The rest of all is the thick part. Now you can also see one more thing, that the thick part of the ascending limb of loop of Henle comes back all the way to near the Bowman's capsule, and that is actually important, which I'm going to be telling you why in subsequent chapters. But keep this fact in your mind, that the ascending limb, the thick part of the ascending limb, comes very near to the Bowman's capsule. Alright, so this and this, the last part of the nephron, is your distal tubule, distal convoluted tubule, DCT, which drains into the collecting duct. So the collecting ducts collects urine from multiple nephrons, and then there are about around 4,000 to 5,000 collecting ducts, which collect urine from multiple, thousands and thousands of nephrons, right, which ultimately drain into the renal calyx. Alright, so this is your basic structure. Let me just label the parts. This is your PCT. Alright, now this is your descending loop of Henle. that is your LOH. Now this is your ascending LOH. This is your DCT, and this is your collecting duct. Alright, I hope I'm clear. Now let's see, there are actually two types of nephrons in your body. Alright, there are two types of nephrons, namely cortical nephrons and your juxtamedullary nephrons. Alright, so what is the difference in them? Alright, so I'm going to be showing you with that diagram only. So as you know, this is the renal cortex, right? So see, this I have drawn, that is a cortical nephron, and whereas this one is your juxtamedullary nephron. Alright, so what the difference is that the loop of Henle in your cortical nephron is very small and remains confined to the cortex, whereas in a juxtamedullary nephron they go deep into the medulla and they are long loops, right? That is the major difference, and the rest of the difference comes from that only. Alright, so first of all, your cortical nephrons, right? They are your majority of them are cortical nephrons. Around 85% are cortical, whereas 15% are your juxtamedullary. Alright, so what did we learn? We learned that the loop of Henle is small, right? And here it's long. So one thing I'm going to tell you, that what is the function of loop of Henle? Alright, so what is the point of making such a long loop, right? So what is the basic function of loop of Henle is to create an osmolar gradient, right? It creates an osmolarity gradient which helps in reabsorption of water and your solutes, which I'm going to be discussing it in detail. Just get the basic idea that it helps in creating a gradient which helps in absorption of water and solutes. Alright, so if the loop is long, the gradient will be larger, right? So it's going to be helping in your more absorption of water and fluids. So that's why the function of cortical nephrons is only excretion, whereas it's also excretion and your concentration of your urine. Alright, now one more thing. Your cortical nephrons have small loops, and hence they don't have thick ascending LOH. That is missing. H is absent, whereas it has thick and thin, both. Alright. So that's roughly sums up the difference between cortical and juxtamedullary nephrons. Now, the next thing is actually in the next video I'm going to be covering the basic function. That is, there are actually 4 basic functions that your nephrons go through. Alright, so the first one is filtration. That is filtering the blood from the capillaries into the Bowman's capsule. How does that happen? Alright. So the second function is your reabsorption, right? You have to reabsorb water, you have to reabsorb some solutes like sodium, chlorine, bicarb, right? This is all included in your reabsorption. So your third function is your secretion. Whatever solutes that come directly into the nephron that do not come from the blood, rather directly secreted into the tubules of the nephron, this process is known as secretion. Alright. And your final process is your excretion. That is the excretion of urine, as we all do it, right? So that is it for this video, and in the next lecture I'm going to be covering about filtration in detail. This is it for basics.